Ex-NRL players are calling on the league to do even more when it comes to player welfare after introducing a mandatory 11-day concussion stand-down period. Former NRL star James Graham wants the sport to introduce league-provided checkups once a player's career is over. James joins me live now. Thanks very much for your time. The 11 days, people maybe that don't follow this closely might be surprised it wasn't there already. The AFL moved on this a couple of years ago. Is it at least welcome this is happening now?
Yeah, look, there's no silver bullet when it comes to managing concussion and looking at athletes' goals in life and with their sport. It's a very complex issue, but this is certainly a step in the right direction when concussion and current athletes are concerned.
It's something that's been studied recently, but we're still finding out about it. What do you make of some calls, and I think it happens in various places in Europe, for 28 days as mandatory stand-down time? Is that overkill? And I don't mean as in protecting people, but there might be people totally free to play and they wouldn't be harmed at all in that time. And as a result, they might not report any concussions, because 28 days, I mean, that could be a whole month of finals football, and suddenly you'll have players maybe hiding it.
Yeah, well, with a policy like that, there would be some unintended consequences where the threat of not being able to participate in your team's finals chances or state of origin or any big games or internationals, you could see how the player might be motivated to hide that. And speaking to the medical experts, the number one aspect of diagnosing concussion is truth, is honesty, and unfortunately, one of the byproducts of a 28-day stand-down period would be people would look to hide and not be honest about it. So, look, we've got to look for technology to take the subjectivity out of it. Speak to researchers there. I know they're working hard on this, but it's such a complex issue, and I think when we're talking about mandatory stand-down periods, this is where the medical experts need to be consulted. I know the value of playing sport. For me personally, it meant everything to me. It's hard to imagine had I, in one of my many concussions, someone telling me I was not going to be able to play for a month, and me accepting that. But It's important that we all come along on this journey. The message could be the right one, but it's how it's delivered. And I think educating the former and the current players about the risks and the ongoing risks are really important when we deliver these messages.
Yeah, and that's not to say, look, I mean, if you look at the AFL rule, for example, it's not like every player comes back after 12 days. They do get this assessment, so it's not a maximum, it's a minimum. You spoke about your own career and your own many concussions. How much did things change even during your career? I know that they're changing now pretty rapidly around how it was treated, because you must look back and shake your head and be worried about how things used to be treated.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to betray my former self. That's who I thought I needed to be, and I think we're products of our environment and our cultures that we live in. So, hey, look, if the culture had been different, perhaps I would have taken a different approach. But now I'm in a position that I do get access to some of the best medical care. I've made connections, and I'm trying to take responsibility. But unfortunately, a lot of former players are feeling lost. They really are. They don't know where to turn to. I was one of those people. I'm not sure if the concussions were the catalyst for my mental health issues, but I was so fortunate that I had access to Dr. Stefan Eriksson, who works at the Dragons, that got me on the pathway to recovery within 36 hours. It was that quick. But unfortunately, a lot of former athletes don't have that support, and things spiral out of control. And when it comes to degenerative brain issues, you can hit the accelerator on these things, or you can hit the brakes. And unfortunately, due to the lack of care and the lack of availability for medical checkups, a lot of these former athletes hit the accelerator, and it's not fair. More needs to be done. We need to honour the past. These former players have dug the well, so we're calling on the sporting governing bodies to provide an annual brain, body, and mind checkup, which I think is is the least that they can do, and these players deserve it.
So everyone has access to the annual checkup, and I suppose there's a key element there, and you've always got privacy because some people would want to, not want people to know they've sought specific help if they're in their next profession. I think what you're saying is interesting as well, because when people are in the setup, everything is often provided for an elite athlete, and the more important you are to the club, the more they'll bend over backwards to help you on anything. Do you need accommodation? What do you need booked, including medical appointments? Sometimes the day you're out, look, sort it out yourself. And people, they sort of almost breed these athletes that are not great at helping themselves.
No, absolutely not. We become very much institutionalised. And look, I think no one's looking for sympathy. No one's looking for that to continue on for the rest of their life. It's just not achievable. It's unrealistic. But I think there needs to be a level of care that there really does. And I think, like I say, I don't think any former athlete wants sympathy for the game that they play that gives them such a rich life in all aspects of well-being, all the markers of well-being. Being a professional athlete is probably the most sought-after profession in the world. We don't want sympathy for who we used to be and the situations we were in. We want solutions. Due to the nature of the environment, continuing on after a concussion as a badge of honour in the past, we need to look after those people because that's the environment that we set. Whether or not people knew the risks, I don't know. And even when you look at the AFL class action at the moment, I'm not sure where I stand on it, but I think what it comes down to is, did you know what you were signing up for? I knew I was playing a dangerous sport or with an element of risk that I was attracted to, but did I sign up for degenerative brain issues at, say, 40 or 50, or a reduction in the brain volume like I have? I'm not so sure if I did.
Yeah, it's a key point, isn't it? That people were aware of risk of injury, and even that your career could end with a serious injury of any type, but not that it would be life limiting. And without delving into it, I'm no legal expert. I guess we'll find out what the AFL and the NRL were told. But when you talk about what you signed up for, is that the crux of it? That yes, you realise you're going eyes wide open, and sporting careers can end in one contest, but you didn't sign up for whether or not your whole life and any future career might be difficult as well.
Yeah, well, that's it. And again, perhaps like most young people, you're just sleepwalking through life or accelerating through life and not really considering the future. It's very difficult for any human being to make decisions in the present that are going to affect their future. So look, we played an exciting sport. It was great. It was fantastic. But, perhaps there needs to be a bit more education around some of the potential effects of leading a life where you play a collision sport, and then some of the off-field activities as well. And, going back to the education, that also needs to carry on post-career. So, like I say, I think with degenerative brain issues, you can hit the brakes, but you can also hit the accelerator. Former players need to be advised on how to manage life transitioning after sport. It's a bizarre situation. It's probably something that you can't explain unless you've been through. I remember being a player and just thinking it was, how hard can it be? But then when you're actually living it, it's incredibly difficult. And again, don't want any sympathy. Just give us some solutions, give us the education, give us the tools to live long and healthy lives into the future.
James Graham, obviously comes from a pretty difficult place. We appreciate your time today. Thank you.
My pleasure.